And you traveled from Vancouver to get here.
I did.
And you had recently finished filming something when you came, right?
Yeah. So I just did an episode of Superman and Lois. Directing, no, not acting. And it was, I had the time of my life. It was, I would have to say, terrifying and very daunting at first, and then it ended up being like so thrilling, and I loved every second of it. They were incredible.
And was this your first episodic that you've directed?
Yeah, my first venture into television as a director. And like, what's like such a cool entryway, right, with that show? Do you guys, any of you guys watch it?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, they're on to their second season. If you haven't watched it, it's on the CW. But it's great. They're a great team over there.
How does that work? You know, when you are creating a short film or a feature film that you've written and directed, there's the path seems a bit more straightforward in understanding it, but you know, do you send videos of your work? Like, how does that work?
Oh, to get that job?
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, I started about 8 years ago. I decided not to act anymore, and I started doing short films. I did 4 short films, and then got my first little micro-budget feature off the ground, and then went to this little film program where I met this woman, Joanne Sarrazin, and got my second feature off the ground that she wrote, and that was a little bit bigger budget. That was 2.3 million, I think. And then through getting, it's called Tammy's Always Dying, and it's on iTunes, and I think on Showtime right now, but you can rent it, and it's a dark comedy, I would call it. It's about this woman, it's about a daughter who's struggling with her mom who's an alcoholic. Anyway, and it stars Felicity Huffman, and I think having made that film became sort of like my calling card, if anything, and that movie helped me get this job, because the showrunner and the people at WB saw the movie, and they really liked it a lot. So then I had a bunch of different meetings. I probably had like 8 meetings with the CW and the WB and all these different levels I had to get through. And finally the showrunner, and then I finally got the gig. And I was so scared. And I watched every episode and like read every script. My boyfriend went and got me all the comics. I like started reading Superman comic books and like, oh my god, I was so nervous. But I think all the prep and the like homework I did paid off and was very helpful in the long run. So
Was there anything, you know, in all of that prep that you had done that you had sort of an expectation in mind, or something that you thought would sort of be the tone or experience of it that shifted once you're actually on set and doing the work?
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's a few surprises this season, I think, with certain characters in the comic book series that I won't mention, but I really dove into those issues, but then the show surprises you and it's suddenly not that avenue. It's like there's so many different sort of surprises. So yeah, and the show is not the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, there's the aspects of it and pieces of it that sort of reflect in it. But so sure, yeah, I probably over-prepped.
As an over-prepper, solid answer.
Totally.
What was it like, you know, taking on something where it's an existing property and you are carrying it through? What was that experience like?
Yeah, because well, first of all, I think walking into a series that is in its second season is like a real gift in a lot of ways, because it becomes this well-oiled machine, and there's really not a lot of room to fail, because that ship will not sink, because everybody's so in sync and they'll keep going. So it's sort of finding your way in to bring your own voice and maybe something to the project. But it actually, which is different than doing an indie film, your own movie, and getting it off the ground, because it isn't a well-oiled machine yet. Everybody's just getting to know each other, right? So it's just a completely different experience. But I really think my schlepping and my scrappy indie sensibilities were very helpful with me in the process of diving into television. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe the episode sucks. I don't know. We'll find out. So far, so good.
So, is your job done with it, or do you go back in and there's additional work in the editing?
I get to edit a little bit. So I have 4 days in the editing room, and then my job is done, and it's on to all the different, showrunner and the network and the studio, and we'll have different edits and things. My job is done ending next week.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to fit us in between
Well,
part
it was
one,
right
part
here
two.
in Vancouver. When I saw that the Comic-Con was going on here, I was like, oh, I'll just hop down. I was supposed to be here 2 years ago. Yeah, right? Remember that? When it all shut down. Here we are!
Yeah, 2 years. So I've heard a lot from people sort of like the things that they picked up during the pandemic. There's been a lot of talk of sourdough and hiking. Anything that you picked up during the pandemic as a hobby that is something that you want to carry with you?
A couple things, actually. Meditation is one of them. I really sort of struggled for a bit, and then I think physically just sitting around and not doing much was really tough. So I started meditating, and I sort of learned how to meditate better. Anyway, now I love it. And then also writing. I ended up writing a lot, and I wrote 2 scripts that I'm really excited about during the pandemic. And there's a third one that's not quite as
2
exciting.
very different scripts. Are we talking about the space between and I'm sorry, no. End of the Earth and what we became, right?
Yeah. Oh, did you look on my website?
I over-prepared.
You did. Look at you. I just put the little blurbs on my website. Is that where you got that?
Yeah, well, I'll let you talk about them, but
They are very different.
they're very different.
Yeah. So Ends of the Earth is a love story. The backdrop of 9/11, and it's based on this. I don't know if you guys have heard of this story in Gander, where during 9/11 all the planes landed in Gander. Come From Away, which is a musical on Broadway, is sort of based off of. It is based off of that. And anyway, about 33 planes landed in this tiny town in Newfoundland, and I think 9,000 people infiltrated that little town, and they had to be hosted by the people. So anyway, I wrote a love story based off of a woman that was fictional on one of the planes that falls in love with a local, and it takes place over like 3 decades. So there's that, sort of like an epic kind of love story. And then there's What We Become. And
is my face selling that was the one that I read that I thought, oh, when do I get to see this one?
And that was more of a sexy thriller. I thought I would challenge myself. And that one's about a writer who has writer's block, and she goes to this little island to overcome her writer's block and finish a novel. And she meets this woman, this younger woman who is going to help her, and they end up having an affair together. But then she finds out that the woman that she claims to be had died 2 years ago. So it's kind of a premise. Yeah, that one was fucking great.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I read that End of the Earth has secured funding.
Well, that fell through. That's okay. It's all gonna happen. It wasn't funding. I was a production company for a bit called Fuzzy Door, which was really great. And then, it's so hard to get a movie off the ground. I honestly think it's easier to get a micro-budget movie or like a little indie Canadian film off the ground than it is to get like a big studio movie off the ground. I think it seems like being scrappy and getting it done that way. Anyway, so I was with Fuzzy Door for a minute, and then timing and some other weird things happened, and so right now that's not happening. But that's okay. It'll happen somewhere else. So,
You mentioned sort of the scrappy getting it funded. I was reading some of the things that you did for Space Between for the Indiegogo.
Oh yeah.
And some of the videos that you
Was
shared.
anybody here a part of the Indiegogo campaign? Yeah? Well, I put on the Power Ranger, Pink Ranger suit and bust in the middle of Dundas Square, which is basically Times Square of Toronto, and sang for money. It was great, and it wasn't
That's dedication.
Great. It was horrifying. But I did raise the money because David Yost, he dared me to do it. And yeah, and people were so supportive. Like this gentleman right here, and a bunch of people. I mean, I couldn't have made that movie without you guys. Like people who had watched Power Rangers, who grew up and with my career, and then helped supporting me make a movie was like really cool. And coming to these Comic Cons has been pretty cool, meeting everybody.
There's something just like really uniquely heartwarming to like see something on stage or on film that like you had a small part in, and the connection that I see you experience with the fans and the viewers, it really is unique. And I think it's also fascinating how it's evolved over the years. I saw a panel that you did in 2018, and y'all were talking about Instagram, like because it was like new and wasn't as present then.
Yeah.
How has your relationship and how you reach folks evolved over the years?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I do this thing that I find really fun maybe I might do another one soon, but it's called a Stage It show. I don't know, has anybody here been to a Stage It show?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you guys follow me on Instagram or anything? So the next time I do one, I'll post it. And then, so this is what it is. It's so fun. In my living room, it's through this stageit.com, sit at my piano, and I'll book a show like a month in advance, and then let everybody know I'm booking a show, and there's a chat room in there, and everybody who's gonna come to the show, you buy like a ticket for like $10 or something, and then there's a chat room, there's a live chat room, people just sit there and chit chat for the whole month, which is kind of fun, and then I come on live when the show starts, and I sing and play songs and talk with everybody for like an hour. That has been so much fun. I did like maybe 5 of them during the pandemic because I'm just sitting in my house doing nothing. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start doing these Stage It shows again because I did them a long time ago to raise money. So I've been doing that. I'll probably do another one within the next month or so. Anyway, come if you can. It's really fun. And then Instagram, you know, I don't post a ton. I think I'm quite private in a lot of ways, but I do love that it's there to post for promoting things or just staying connected without staying overly connected. You know what I mean? Like I don't post what I eat for dinner and stuff like that. Like I sort of I keep it very minimal, but it is a great tool, I think, for everybody to stay engaged. Yeah,
Absolutely. You know, you're a screenwriter, you're a director, you're also a songwriter. Will you ever combine those, do you think, and write a musical?
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, yes. This might not be so much a question of would you do this as me saying, will you do this for us? Will you do this for me specifically?
That would be so fun. You know, I've written 3 songs in the last, I wrote 3 songs in the last 2 years, but before that it had been a while. I made a little album called Never Broken, I think in like 2014. You can find it on iTunes or wherever. And then music's always just sort of been this weird little hobby that I have. I have my piano in my living room, and it's sort of like a way to escape and stuff. I never pursued it to become a rock star or anything like that. But the idea of writing a musical, that could be super fun. I don't even know what it would be about. But actually, a couple of the songs that I just wrote do sound kind of musical-y. Maybe I'll go based off of those. That could be so fun.
Start with a song cycle, then expand into a movie musical.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. That could be fun.
I would support that in Indiegogo 100%. Let me know.
That would be so fun. You know what? I'm gonna think on that. Yeah. Okay.
So, you've been talking about the things that you're developing, but also, you have these commitments like Superman and Lois. How do you balance that? The thing.
And a daughter who just turned 13.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's put that at the top.
Yeah. That's like, it was really hard to leave for a month just now and go, like, follow my dream and shoot it. So I don't think I could do it too much. You know what I mean? I don't want to do it that often. But leaving and going to do that maybe twice a year, I could see, because that is my priority.
Mm-hmm.
Is Frankie and her being happy. And 13, I think, is such an important age to have like your mama there. So anyway, I probably didn't really answer that question, but
No, if what I'm hearing is that you have to prioritize, like
yeah, and you know what? That's why these Comic-Cons are so great. One, to meet everybody and sign things, but also to, put food on the table and be able to follow my dreams. And because I stopped acting, I think because I suddenly felt really complacent, and I felt like I was a lazy actor. By the time I was like 42, and then as soon as I directed my first short, I was like, oh, this is where all my passion is. I'm not lazy anymore doing this. I am not lazy as a director at all. So I stopped acting, and so the living I was making as an actor supported a lifestyle that I really quite, liked having. That's gone now. But that's okay, because the directing thing will take off. So it's, spending the time doing that, getting that off the ground.
Yeah. Speaking of connecting with the fans, in just a few moments we're gonna be taking audience Q&A questions. So I just want to let y'all know there is a microphone right there in that center aisle. So as you think of your questions, you can go ahead and start lining up. And then once we get that all set up, we'll shift to that.
Yeah. Anybody want to go get in line? No? Oh, good. Thanks, Ron. Thank you.
I've noticed, and I love this, everyone at Emerald City Comic Con is so polite. It's like such a polite audience.
Yeah.
I'll let them know, hey, there's gonna be questions, and everybody's sort of like, I see them like take that moment to like think of a good question.
Yeah, I found this whole experience, everybody's been so nice. Even going out to dinner last night, just like a lot of nice people in Seattle.
When you go to these Comic Cons, you see your fans, but also it's a little bit like a friend reunion, because you get to see people that you've worked with across projects.
I got to see Walter and Johnny, which was really cool. I haven't seen them in forever. I went and had drinks with Walter last night. I don't think we've hung out once at a Comic Con. I think it was my first Comic Con ever. I think it was like maybe 7 years ago. And I haven't seen them since, so that was really nice.
Are there people that you've sort of developed relationships with only seeing them at the cons? I'm like, oh yeah, we filmed this, we did this around the same time, so we're sort of circling the drain and catching up.
I think the first couple of years I was on a circuit where I kept seeing the same people, and then I haven't done, first of all, this is the first one I've done in 2 years. I did one in in New York this summer, and that's it. Other than that, I haven't done any. So this is like the first one back. No, I just saw Walter, but I haven't seen Walter in forever. Anyway, I'm really tired, can you tell? I'm making no sense whatsoever.
So before we switch the Q&A, I have a question about sort of the difference between your process when you're doing a short film versus like a feature length. How does that vary for you? Your prep work, for example.
Yeah, well, I think my first 4 shorts, were figuring out how to do a feature and figuring out what is the job of a director, from prep to directing to post and all that. So those were like my training ground. So then jumping into the space between was like just jumping, it just was doing a short much bigger. Yeah.
Do you have any sort of like idea sparks in the back of your mind? You're like, that would be a good short.
I do, but I don't know if I want to do a short again. But I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, that would be a really funny short. So I have a little folder that I write the ideas down, and then I don't know, maybe at some point I want to do that. I don't know. I'd rather do a feature.
I mean, yeah. I think from an audience standpoint, I'd rather see a full feature from you as well, so thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's switch on over to our audience questions. Hi.
Hi, I'm Chad. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Liz.
First thing is, I've had a long time crush on you since Power Rangers.
Okay.
Big fans. What was it like doing the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie with all the other actors?
Like the big one that just came out
No, the one back in...
30 years ago?
Yeah.
That was really fun. We were in Australia. It's funny having hanging out with Walter last night and hearing sort of his perspective. I guess they all left right before we went off to go do the movie. So that was like a whole. Hindsight is so crazy. Like he was like bringing up all the stuff that had happened at that time, which I think was more, was a traumatic experience for Walter because they ended up leaving the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I stayed and went on into the movie, so I didn't even remember all the bits and pieces of that. But anyway, jumping and going to doing the movie was incredible. Oh my God, I was 22 years old in Australia for 6 months, like having the time of my life. Yeah, I think I remember
Did you
more
have
so.
like a favorite scene or something?
Oh yeah, because I was going to tell you, I kind of remember the bars in Sydney when we were I do remember us doing green screen day, and I remember that was quite thrilling because we were jumping out of an airplane or something. Did we do that in the movie? Yeah, and so we did that actually on a green screen. With like big huge fans and everything. So that was super fun. I remember that. It was like the first time I ever saw, like, we'd go into the bar and then we'd walk out of the bar and it was daylight. Like the bars don't close in Sydney. That was crazy at 22 years old.
Hello.
Hi.
I saw you upstairs not too long ago, but the other building rather. Anyways, with the more recent Power Rangers franchise, they had you and David cameoing for that. If they asked you...
JDF, yeah.
Yeah, or Jason, sorry.
Yeah.
Jason David Frank, yes. But if they asked you back, and you said you gave up acting, but if they asked you back in a more permanent role, would you consider it, or are you simply done?
You know what I would consider? I would consider like a strange, fun, weird sort of reunion. And I directed it, and then I would be in it.
Okay, because, I mean, with the way they had it set up with you and Jason taking pics, it made it look like that you were going to, like, be cast next movie as parents of whoever they put.
I know. I don't think they're that smart, though.
It seemed reasonable to me. Also,
Right?
yes.
I think it seems reasonable to everybody. But I don't know who makes these decisions, because it hasn't been the greatest ones. But
Also, since you did sing for me in that cameo, what's your favorite song to sing?
oh, what did I sing for you?
I'd have to pull it up, and my phone is dying. But,
I have one go-to song that I find myself singing over and over again on my I do cameo.com. I love it. Do you guys know who Cameo? So you just know I do love doing them. I sit in my living room and I usually sing and like I do a whole thing. It's usually at least 5 or 6 minutes long, right?
no, you did a pretty decent song for me. So, what's your favorite song to sing of everything?
I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's sorry.
How many bars will come to you?
Something about the rain. Have you ever seen
The rain.
coming down on a sunny day?
There you go.
I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? I sing that one over and over and over.
So as a director, Are you able to turn off the director's eye when you are watching something for fun or for entertainment? Or is there just that moment in the back of your mind where you're like, I would do this differently?
No, I totally can turn it off. Yeah. My boyfriend, who's an AD, can't. He's always commenting on the shots and how it's shot, and I'm just like, really? I just turn it off. I just watched the series Made.
Oh,
Right. If you guys haven't seen it, first of all, it's heartbreaking and sad and kind of hard to watch, but
Take
so
some breaks.
beautiful. And that I did notice when I was watching. I'm like, I've never seen a show where the scenes are so motivated, the way they're shot, motivated by the emotion of the scene. It was brilliant.
it's like visceral, like you feel it when you're watching it.
It was so good. And Andy McDowell's, am I saying her name right? Daughter is fantastic. She's so good. Anyway, I highly recommend this series. It's really great.
Hi.
I had questions about a film that you were in called Interstate 60,
Interesting, yes?
and with James Marsden, Michael J. Fox.
Did anybody see it?
It's a really great movie. You guys should watch it.
The movie is good, but my character, do you know what this is?
No,
I
I
was-
was here.
I was on the quest to find the perfect. The word starts with an F. Yeah,
Fun
anyway,
couple.
so just. And the scene was with Jimmy Marsden and Gary Oldman, like highlight of my career, like working with Gary Oldman. That was pretty cool. And there was a moment where I was getting direction, the camera was on me, and the director ran over and gave me some direction and then walked away, and then Gary Oldman whispered in my ear, I can't do an English accent, but he was like, don't forget your instincts. And I was like, okay, this is the coolest moment of my entire life. When Gary Oldman tells you not to forget your instincts. Pretty cool. Right?
Yes, I love that. When you
Anyway, sorry, what was your question?
Let's answer it. Yeah, just what was your experience working with Bob Gale on his first movie, and if you took any lessons from watching him direct, and apply.
Yeah, that's so cool. So Bob Gale wrote it, who wrote Back to the Future, right? And it was his. I think it was his directorial debut, right?
Right.
Yeah, I just, I worked on the movie for 3 days, so I don't know much of how his experience was. What's the question of watching him sort of do
Just
that?
if you saw him and just if you.
He was excited the whole time. He was really into it, that's for sure. Yeah, it was a really cool experience, and it was actually the first time I ever went to Toronto, and that's where I live now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you talk about, trust your instincts, is there like a North Star that you go to that sort of guides you in your process when you're directing or writing or?
Do you know what? I've just recently found my North Star. This guy who had directed a bunch of Superman and Lois named Tom Cavanaugh. I think he's an actor as well. Sorry. I have a friend of a friend set me up with him to chat with him, and he gave me the best advice. He said, proceed with gratitude, no matter what. No matter what's going on, what's happening, if something's frustrating, because everybody's there to do a good job. So that was sort of my North Star in a way. Like my mantra through the whole thing is proceed with gratitude.
That's so great.
Right? I think that's a great way to live life in a way. It was like, it saved me the entire time, I have to tell you. I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm gonna
Thank you for
apply
sharing.
this to all. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Scott. And first off, that other guy gave me confidence. And it's okay, I'm married, it's okay, but I gotta openly admit, yes, you were my first TV crush. Yes. It's okay, I'm married now, it's okay.
Oh, good.
But,
Is your wife here?
my wife knows about it, she's not here.
Oh.
But she knows.
Does she know you're here?
She knows I'm here. We have a kid too. She's 2 years old, she loves Power Rangers. Hands me the iPad every day and goes, Power Rangers, Power Rangers, Power Rangers.
Does your kid know?
Not yet. But anyways, my question was, I know there was some issues regarding the fact that Austin, Walter, and Tui Fang, there were reasons why they left the show. So my overall question, given their reasons, and I don't know if I should get too into them, what made you, Jason and David stay on the show despite the issues that the other three were having?
Yeah, so it's so funny because I was sort of talking about this last night with Walter, and I'd never heard his side of everything because they left. And then the last time I saw him at the Comic-Con, it just didn't come up. But honestly, I was 22 years old, 21 years old. I didn't even have an agent. I was super naive. I got to LA and didn't realize Hollywood was there. Honestly, it was really a lovely surprise. So stupid. Right? Anyway, it was non-union. We were not paid very well, but it was more money than I'd ever made in my entire life. I think it was like $700 an episode. It was a bit unsafe. I didn't realize that at the time. And I think that I just I didn't want to stir a pot that I didn't even really know what the pot was that I was stirring. Like, I didn't understand non-union, union, all that stuff. So I just didn't jump on the bandwagon of that decision with the lawyers that they had, hired or anything, because I just was doing my job, and it wasn't in my radar at the time. And literally one day on set, they were just gone. And then the next day,
They stopped showing up on set, I hear.
Yeah, they didn't come because the lawyer told them not to. So that's all I have to say about that. I don't know. I just stayed until I was done and then asked if I could leave. And then they said, sure. And I asked Shuki, who was the producer, I said, I'm done now. That was after the movie. And he said, okay, how about you do 5 more episodes and this movie called Susie Q? And I said, great, all right, I'll do those. And then I left really on really great terms, went off and did my own thing, and then they asked me back to do the Turbo Ranger movie a couple years later, and I was like, sure, cool, I'll come do that. So I never left on bad terms or anything. I left when I was done.
Yeah. Well, I heard it was because you were worried about, you left because you were worried about injuries or something?
Me? No, I left because I was done. I asked to leave.
Okay, yeah, I heard something about some sparks going off.
Oh yeah, I almost caught on fire. Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, looking back at what was going on and what I was doing, it was not a safe environment, for sure. It was non-union and low budget and really dumb what we were doing, but I didn't know it at the time.
All right, thank you.
This is a very peek behind the industry curtain, but it is wild to me to hear that show was non-union.
Oh yeah, it was non-union. I think maybe 2 seasons after it became union for a minute, and then they brought the whole thing to New Zealand so they could stay non-union. Yeah, and then it's been in New Zealand this whole time.
And you were young when you started on the show. Is there anything that you would like to go back and tell your young self about the industry, or advice that you wish you had gotten?
No.
Just speaking to take it in.
Yeah, it was kind of just going through. Yeah, I don't think so. Because then I wouldn't have done the job, and I wouldn't be sitting here.
It would have been a different path for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, somebody did tell me right when I got the job. A friend of mine, I won't name names, you may know who he was, but is nothing to do with Power Rangers, a different actor. At the time when I just got Power Rangers, I was sitting at a bar with him, and I told him about the gig, and I was so excited, and he's like, and he was a big movie star at the time, and he's like, listen, honestly, I think, you should probably just not do, I'd done the pilot, he's like, I think you should just get off of it, and if you really want to be an actor. The show hadn't aired yet or anything like that, but he advised me not to do it, but I didn't take his advice. This is a dumb story, but anyway, somebody told me not to do it, who probably at the time I could have been influenced by, but I didn't let him.
But I mean, it's like you were talking about earlier, the path that you took led you here. So
Exactly, I wouldn't change a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi.
You know what I would change?
Ooh.
One thing. I quit. I did the same thing with Felicity. I asked to leave because my mom had died and I needed to go mourn and all this stuff. But in hindsight, with that was dumb. I never should have left that show. I never should have asked to be that. Anyway, just thought I'd get that off my chest.
Putting it all out on the stage here.
Just for you guys.
Hi.
Hi, I'm David. So my question is, while you were working on Power Rangers, what was the biggest lesson you learned, and how do you apply to it today?
Honestly, at the time, at being 22 years old, what the biggest thing I learned at that time, which was so helpful for the next job, was to, this is gonna sound so stupid, but was to get out of the mirror. Like, I was so, obsessed with, at first, with, last looks is something they call right before they shoot, and I had to get the mirror, and I had to see how I was looking. And there was a point when doing that show where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna let people do their jobs. Not to worry so much about that kind of stuff. And I learned how to hit marks and just the tiny little technical things as an actor that you need to know. And also how to be kind to crew and not to be a brat, and just etiquette. I think set etiquette was a big thing I learned through my experience on Power Rangers. Through, trial and error. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Amy. Corbin here.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. My wife is here, by the way, so everyone knows.
Yeah.
My question is, I might have you name drop Susie Q. What happened to that movie, and why can we not buy it anywhere? Do you know?
I don't.
What if we need to burn down to make this happen?
It's funny because I would love for my daughter to see that movie, right? So it was on the Disney Channel, but it wasn't made by Disney. It was made by Saban Entertainment, basically the same people that made Power Rangers. So I don't even know who has it. Where is that footage?
Do you have your own copy?
I have one that somebody was nice enough to make of the YouTube version that's out there. So it's not good quality. No, I don't have one.
I used to work at Starbucks, and my manager, and we would spend hours and just be like, what happened to Susie Q?
I know! Where is that movie? You know what? I'm gonna email Shuki Levy and I'm gonna ask him. Where is it?
And also, did you ever get tired of wearing pink in your early days? I know you just came out of Power Rangers, and then Susie Q came out, and it pretty much matched the same bubblegum.
I know. I think I had a moment in my mid-20s where I was like, I'm not wearing pink anymore. I got over it in my 30s. And I was like, okay, pink is actually a good color on me.
It's very, very nice. But thank you. We'll hunt down Susie Q because I know there's a fan.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Who knows? It might not even exist.
So
It's in someone's basement or something. It's in Haim Saban's basement. I have no idea where that movie is.
But it had a Disney connection?
It was on the Disney Channel. So they aired it. That's it. So it's not
Maybe it's in the vault waiting for Disney Plus Day.
But it's not, because it wasn't a Disney movie. I have no idea where it would be.
Internet.
I bet Shuki has it.
It's like
Mouse owns everything eventually, don't worry.
Huh?
Mouse owns everything eventually, don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Hi.
Hi. Well, before I ask my question, the follow-up, because I was totally going to mention Susie Q, I was going to say thank you, actually, for making me love the color pink. I've always wanted to be the pink Power Ranger every time we played games anyway. So, and that Susie Q dress was my idol, so thank you. And I'm glad to wear pink for you any time of the day. My nephew's absolutely obsessed with the show, so is my sister. So this is a question from her. Where would you like to see Pink Power Ranger, your character specifically, in any other TV show or movie, this day and age?
Well, actually, I probably shouldn't say this. But I'm going to because they're taking a really long time to get back to me, so I'm just going to say it. But I wrote a comic book with my boyfriend, and Boom is quite excited about it, and we're sort of in the process of getting it made. They take a really long time, by the way, but they're great. They're amazing. And it is sort of takes place now, not now, in that world of the Rangers in their mid-40s. Where are they now kind of a thing. It's like a Power Ranger family reunion type of a thing. So anyway, just letting you guys know that, even though I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I'm sick of waiting. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm And no, I'm not kidding.
Any
But
advice
it's
on-
exciting, yeah. And I'd never written a comic book before, and my boyfriend is obsessed with comic books, and he's like, he really is the one who sort of has, like, we came up with the story together, and he's really been the one to, like, put pen to paper, I guess you could say, you would call it. But anyway, so hopefully I'm hoping within a year and a half, maybe the 30-year reunion would be like the perfect time. Our anniversary would be the perfect time for it to come up. So I'm putting it out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was the writing of a comic book, was that another pandemic project, or was
For
that
Matt, yeah. And so we sort of brainstormed the whole idea and the story and everything, and then yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we have just a few minutes left, so if you do have a question, now is the time to make your way up to the microphone to ask that. So you mentioned earlier that you had relocated to Vancouver. So what was it like being a dual citizen during a global
Oh no, I
pandemic?
relocated to Toronto.
Toronto, sorry.
Yeah. So what was it like? Sorry.
Being a dual citizen during a global pandemic.
I think for a lot of the time, I was quite grateful that I had made the choice to move up to Canada. So we won't get into politics right now, but that says a lot, that statement. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Good point. Hi.
Hello, my name is Brandon. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
So mine's pretty simple. Just like, what was the casting process like for you? Becoming the Pink Ranger.
Yeah, so that was, I remember, I think we went through like 8 or 9 auditions, and I think, my hindsight isn't great, but I think they paired us up right off the bat. I was with Walter and David and Austin and a girl named Audrey, I think, right?
Yeah, I think she was supposed to be the original Yellow Ranger before she used
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we got paired up right away and then went through all the auditioning process, and I just remember it was very intense, and I think there was like 5 other groups that were sort of going for it too. Maybe it was 3 or 4, I'm not sure, but and then it's just slowly got down to us being the last ones, and it was the most thrilling thing in my entire life because it was literally like my first audition and my first job as an actor.
Okay. Did you ever think it was going to be as big as it was? Like as soon as you got casted?
No, I didn't think that until 5 years ago. Honestly, I didn't realize how popular it was until I started going to conventions. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
This
because
is
I
like-
think during the show, I think you guys were touring as well too, right? I believe. If I'm
And
not
we did a
mistaken.
few tours, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to attend those, but saw every episode, every Saturday morning. But yeah, that's all I got. So thank you.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy and really cool to see and to hear stories going to the conventions and how the show affected people's lives and stuff. It's like, wow, that's so cool. Like, not my intention, right? But like, just kind of like a cool thing to be a part of, like free karma or something like that. You know? Kinda
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, my name's AJ, and I was actually just wondering if you could talk to us about your time filming Flashpoint. Because I really enjoyed watching that show, and I thought you were just excellent in it.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved shooting that show. That brought me, I moved my life to Montreal, left Los Angeles, thought I was quitting acting, and then the show was auditioning people, and I said no, and then they called again and said they really want you to audition, and then I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, tell them I'm pregnant, they're not gonna want me. They don't care that you're pregnant. I'm like, okay, all right. Something's really pulling me there. So I went to the audition, which was in Toronto, and I got the job, and then so that's what brought me to Toronto, and I love it there. That's where I live now. And then I had 5 seasons on that show, and it was incredible. I think I really found my confidence as a person. I made such great friends. That whole team was wonderful. It was a really, really cool time in my life. And like my last serious gig as an actor too. So that's kind of cool that it ended there, which was really nice.
Yeah, just the chemistry of that show was really fun to watch, so thank you.
Yeah, it was a fun show to make. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey there, my name's Cassidy. So on the topic of writing a comic where the Ranger is now, the other day David Yost mentioned that he was writing something where the Rangers are in their 40s with their families, kids, also would include like Broken Skull, that he tried to turn into a miniseries. Have you heard anything about that?
I've talked to David about it a little bit. Yeah, I know he's got some big ideas going on. He's quite private about them. I'm excited for him to pursue that. I think it would be super cool. You know what I personally, honestly think would be really cool? If every one of the original Rangers did their own comic book. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like did their own version of Where Are They Now or something. Or they did their own like little, what do they call it in like DC and Marvel?
Like a literary multiverse.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Wouldn't that be kind of fun? Like, where are they now from that person's perspective? Anyway, I think that'd be cool. So anyway, yeah, I don't know what David's idea is, but I know he has one for sure. Yeah.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really glad you mentioned Felicity because I'm a huge Felicity fan and I rewatched the show during the pandemic. So and I didn't know the reason why you had left the show.
Yeah.
But since you've become a director, then I'm curious what your relationship with J.J. Abrams has been and if you've reconnected with him or any tips he's given you on directing or
I just watched, do you guys watch Smartless at all? It's Jason Bateman's podcast with Will Arnett. Anyway, they had JJ on there. That was some good advice. No. Anyway, I haven't seen JJ in years. He did help me become a Canadian. He wrote a letter for me, which was really nice. My dream, actually, is to work with or for JJ or Matt, because they both are amazing human beings and like incredible directors. And I know that Matt Reeves has like a new deal with Warner Brothers and you know, I don't know, that would be a amazing full circle to go and work with them as a director. Like, oh my God, that's the dream right there for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, rest of the con, you're going to be at the autograph table.
No, I'm done.
You're
This
done?
is it. You guys all got what you needed, right? Yeah.
Well,
It's over.
say
Show's over. Thanks
Bye.
for staying. I mean, oh my God, thank you for being here at the end. But that's awesome that you guys came to this little panel that we have. It's been so fun.
And so we know that you're flying back to finish the episode.
No, I'm done.
To edit it though.
Oh, to edit it, yeah. Sorry.
I don't mean to sound like an adult here, but you're not done the job yet. You have to go finish it.
Yeah. No, I'm done shooting. Now I get to go edit it.
Yes. So I have one final question. This is a silly question that I love to ask people, but if you were to release your autobiography this week, at this point in your life, what would the title be?
Oh, God. What is it?
I don't know, oh God sounds like a great name.
I love hearing people's first reaction. I think that's it. Amy, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for all of your wisdom and anecdotes. And thank all of you. Let's hear it for Amy Jo.